What's up and welcome back to another unboxing review with Gizmo Slip Tech. Today we have the Legion Slim 5 with a Ryzen 5 7640HS RTX 4060, and it's also got a full HD plus, so 16 by 10 aspect ratio, 350 nits display, in a slimmer profile than a Lenovo Legion 5. And this also cost me less money than my Legion 5 as well. So, and the other big thing that you need to know about the RTX 40, 50, 60, and 70 this year is that the power limits really aren't that high of requirements on those bottom three GPUs, which means that a slimmer laptop like the Legion 5 Slim should be able to theoretically give us very similar performance, at least in raw GPU performance, as the thicker Legion 5, which kind of puts the Legion 5 in an awkward spot if it costs more money and it provides about the same performance level. Why not go for the more portable option here? This is the kind of argument, I think, for the Legion Slim 5 being the better choice, or maybe the Legion 7, if you're going for a 4050, 4060, or 4070 GPU model. Obviously, if you go for a 4080 or 4090 model, you're gonna have to spend more money, obviously, and you're gonna need a thicker chassis if you want to pull the higher wattage requirements that the 4080 and 4090 require, which usually means a less portable system unless you severely power limit the 4080 and 4090, like in the Zephyrus G14, for example. This is all of the slim versions of the Lenovo laptops. You can see we've got quite a few different models here, and if you need a link to the description, or if you need a link to my laptop list, there's a link in the description. This has every laptop pretty much available that you can buy in 2023 that's worth considering if you're a gaming laptop enthusiast or you're looking for a high quality gaming laptop. We update this every day with the best sales. You can filter this by price, you can filter this by size, you can filter this by performance level, or however you want to filter it. You can search in the model here. Currently, the cheapest RTX 4050 is this MSI Bravo 15 for $749. Yes, RTX 4050s are now going for $749. That is an insane value. So the biggest downside to this one, of course, only 8 gigs of RAM and a very low quality display. But I mean, if you want to get this for $749, you're probably not going to get a desktop cheaper that has all of this included: keyboard, mouse, and screen. The Lenovo Lock 16 has a much better quality display. At least it's brighter. It's like the same color gamut, but it's a brighter display. It'll be easier to see, but it does cost quite a bit more. So $835 for the Lock 16. To start with, the cheapest is the Lenovo Legion Slim 5 with the Ryzen 5, same CPU, but it's an RTX 4050, 16 gigs of RAM, and you get the same higher quality display. I believe that's included on this unit. I'm not sure if it's the exact same display, but I think it's the same display as far as I know. It's a full HD plus 144 Hertz. I actually think it's more than 300 nits here. Then there's the Slim 5i. Of course, the I after the number indicates that it's an Intel CPU. If there's no I after it, it means it's a Ryzen CPU. I think probably the best option is probably this one, the Slim 5 with the Ryzen 7 7840HS with a 4060 with a QHD plus display. And this one's $1149 right now, so you get an upgraded display and an upgraded CPU for $150 more than I paid for my Slim 5. So this one, the highest end model, the Lenovo Legion Slim 7i, has an i9-13900H. Keep in mind that there's not that big a difference between the i7-13700H and the i9-13900H because it's the same number of cores and threads. It's just a higher binned CPU, so it can go to slightly higher clock speeds. You got an RTX 4070 in here, 32 gigs of DDR5, 1 terabyte SSD, 165 Hertz, 3.2K, 430 nits, 100% DCI-P3 color gamut display. So the display is the special sauce on this Legion Slim 7i that sets it apart. But this Slim 5 that we're looking at today, okay, so here it is, $1349 ordinary pricing. I bought this from Best Buy for $999 when it was on sale a couple weeks ago. And man, at $999, this thing is a really good deal, I think. But at $1349, not so much, right? It's an okay-ish deal. But like I said, the current best deal is probably either the 4060 variant that is sold out, or maybe if you're okay with a 4050, then you could go with the Slim 5 4050 variant, which actually costs about $71 less than what I bought the 4060 version. So yeah, it's actually pretty comparable in specs because there's not a huge difference in terms of performance between a 4060 and a 4050. 4050 being, you know, 10 to 15% slower, not a huge gap there. What are some of the other options? Well, you got the Lenovo Lock 16. This one is $835. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Very good on the ultra budget level, but I would say that the display quality on the Slim 5 series is just a better display quality based on my initial testing with the Lock 16 and this Slim 5. I think the Slim 5, I would buy my Slim 5 at $999 over this Lock for sure, because you get 16 gigs of RAM with mine, and you get the same processor, but you get an upgraded GPU, and you get a much better display. Then you got the Acer Nitro 5. This thing is still on sale. A 3070 Ti with a great display, great value overall. Lenovo Lock 15. This one might be worth considering because of the specs on it being excellent for the money, but it is a bit chunkier. To me, the Lock 16 felt more of like a budgety Lenovo IdeaPad-ish type of build, where the Slim 5 feels a bit more solid. So as well in terms of build quality. I don't know, I have to do a little more side-by-side testing, but then we have the MSI Katana 15. Now this one has the cheapest 4070 available. If you're just after raw graphics power and you're gonna use an external display, this one's definitely one to consider at $1159. Very portable and slim as well, but it is more of a plastic build, certainly not a more premium build. Last but not least, we also have the Acer Nitro 16, a much better display quality here. And I would say that this is worth the upgrade over the Katana 15 for the much better display, because then you get an excellent onboard display with the Nitro 16, and you get an excellent RTX 4070 and a Ryzen 7 7735HS. It's awesome. I really like the Nitro 16. Very basic box. Nothing in particular special about the box. They're not paying for no fancy box, that's for sure. Like, look at this. This is just left out on the side of the laptop. There's not even a box for the power adapter, which is usually a pretty standard feature. First, power cable, about 6 feet long. It's just a little bit shorter than 6 feet probably. Power adapter cable, also just a little bit shorter than 6 feet. Excellent. Not sure if you'll be able to see it. 230 watt power brick. I don't think you really need more than 230 watts for the full performance of the laptop. This is how it was packaged when I got it. The laptop itself is wrapped in plastic, and it feels very solid in the hand. Even though this is only a $1,000 laptop, it feels very similar to like the Legion 5 or the Pro 7i. Get more from your PC services, 15% discount if you upgrade your warranty. We got our standard Lenovo keyboard that's on the same keyboard that's on the Legion 5 and Pro 7i as well, in terms of like layout and feel. There's a couple pamphlets here we can take a quick look at. So we got the Legion. FN plus Q can change your fan profile. FN plus R can switch your refresh rate to be a little bit, it goes from 60 hertz up to 165 or 240 hertz, whatever this laptop display is. And FN plus space bar changes your keyboard backlight brightness. Just safety information notices, I guess. Super simple laptop unboxing, and wow, like initial impression of the hinge is excellent. Very premium in my opinion, opening and closing this, and it has this nice magnetic shunk to it at the end, and you can lift it off with one finger, no problem. We have a metal top lid with the Legion logo, just like the Legion 5 and Pro 7i. We also have our little emblems here on the back. These do not light up for the ports right here. So HDMI indicator or power, you know, little things like that. So we have a full-size SD card slot right here. That's nice. Webcam shutter button right here. Fan exhaust over here on the right. On the rear, we have two USB-As, a LAN with the downward facing Ethernet here. So you're gonna have to lift the laptop up probably to reach that. It should be an HDMI 2.1, and then we have our power cable. On the right side, we have two USB-Cs. This one says it has power delivery, and there's a headset port here as well. So that means this laptop has two USB-Cs, two USB-As, a full-size SD card slot, Ethernet, HDMI 2.1. Really nice selection of ports for a slimmer laptop. It's actually not that slim to me. It's like slightly smaller. Let's go ahead and do some comparisons. Let's start with the Legion Pro 7i. It is exactly the same width, pretty much. Maybe just a little bit thicker. Very similar. Maybe like a 1/4 inch smaller right here. You see the little edge right here? Not much of a difference there, right? The Zephyrus G15 is clearly much thinner. I mean, obviously a G4, if you're after something super portable, go with the Zephyrus G14 because that's even much smaller than the G15. But the G15 is clearly a thinner device than the Slim 5. I want to point out the hinge design, which I like this hinge design. Look at, it's like, it's very similar to like my Blade 18 hinge design where you get like the whole bar going through here and then the screen latches in. It's a very high quality hinge design. And it feels very stable. That's the other thing. It can go 100% back. There is some wobble, but like when you're moving it, you have to apply a good amount of pressure to move the hinge, and there is a nice shunk to it. Everything feels good. Touchpad is plastic. This is not a glass touchpad. That is one area that a Lenovo definitely saves some money here. This touchpad doesn't feel terrible, but it does not glide as smooth as like the Zephyrus touchpad. That just doesn't feel as smooth. Boom. Okay, very little flex. Basically, I'm pushing down the rubber feet right there. Like it does not feel like there's hardly any flex. A little bit of flex here in the middle. No flex on the left. Oh, quite a bit of flex over here on the upper wrist rest area over by the keyboard here. Some flex here as well. About average, not terrible. Going to the top, no flex up here. Just a little bit of flex in the middle, not much at all. No flex in the corner, a little bit of flex on the side. So mainly this area right here in the middle has some bouncy flex part to it, including the upper wrist rest areas here, which I would actually have hoped they would make this feel a little bit more solid here, but that's not bad. You just need a Phillips head screwdriver to open this guy up, which is not too hard to get, but it does need to be a small one. I don't know, like it to me, even though this thing was set up originally to me be like a Zephyrus G16 competitor, like they kind of made this thing kind of chunky. I don't know, like look at how big and beefy this heat pipe system is. Like this feels a bit beefier, a bit chunkier of a cooling system than the Zephyrus series. So look at the giant fans. These are very large fans with thick fins. We got a left and a right. We got 3 big shared heat pipes. One goes around all the way to the middle for this fan exhaust on the left. And then we got 2 small ones that go out the back, 2 heat exhausts. And then we got a dedicated heat pipe over here on the right for the GPU. And of course the metal plates here on the VRMs. And we got another heat pipe here, looks like, or at least a metal tube that transmits the heat over here to the back. As long as the paste job is good, we should have excellent cooling on this system. We got a 78 watt-hour battery in this guy, so not the maximum watt-hour battery, but this is a Ryzen 6-core, I believe, 12-thread CPU. So in theory, we should be able to get pretty dang good battery life with this guy. Now we got our speakers here on the left and right side. Those are smaller all around speaker sizes. So I'm not expecting too much from the speakers on this, but maybe there's hidden speakers. Looking at the upgradability, we have looks like 2 SODIMM slots here, and we got M.2 slot that's wide open right here, and one that's populated with a 512 gig SSD out of the box. There is no Wi-Fi brand on that Wi-Fi right now. It's an SK Hynix 512 gig PCIe Gen 4 SSD. Now the question is, are we going to take this metal shroud off of the RAM? Let's go ahead and do it. But before you do that, you definitely want to unplug the battery. So I'm just using a plastic tool here to gently pull the tabs on the edges of the battery. Yeah, this thing is not an easy shroud to take off. Here's the RAM. Looks like it's a Samsung RAM. 2 8 gig sticks. So DDR5 5600 Samsung RAM. 1RX16. There's the insides. Overall, we got good upgradability, 2 SODIMM slots, a little bit annoying to get to, but we got a free M.2 for a free storage upgrade for a quick and easy one. And the Wi-Fi is also very easily accessible. Our battery is plugged back in. Let's go ahead and get this thing put back together. Let's go ahead and do our camera test. So no Windows Hello on this unit. I was not expecting there to be, but I just wanted to make sure people saw that. Even though I'm kind of ish in the studio-ish lighting, looks a bit gray, I would say, and definitely got a lot of noise in the image. Lumix is readable. It's some of the, this is, that alone makes this webcam a little bit better quality than half of the gaming laptops I've tested this year. Overall, I'd say the webcam is just about average for a gaming laptop. I mean, you could definitely Skype to grandma with this, no problem. But you know, I've got pretty good lighting in this room. Overall, I'd say the camera, I don't know, 6 out of 10 or something like that. So you open Lenovo Vantage, and then you go down to Lenovo Spectrum down here, and there are 3 different settings: off, 1, 2, 3. These are 3 different quick switch lighting modes that you can switch between. FN plus space switches between the different profiles. Underneath these profiles, you've got 5 different options. So you can do static, breathe, smooth, wave right, wave left. Under the waves, you have no control over what happens other than brightness and speed. You can't change the colors. There's also smooth, which is just a color shift. Breathe, which activates and deactivates the color off and on. And then of course there's static, which you can set it to be just one specific color, or you can change each of the 4 different zones to also be a specific color by clicking it and then clicking the color you would like. This is max brightness right here. That is the brightness of the Legion Pro 7i. Look at how much brighter and more vibrant key lightings are. Plus you got the RGB in the front of the Pro 7i. It's quite a huge difference in terms of brightness level. Let's go ahead and go through all the different modes here. So breathing, smooth, slow transition between the different colors, wave right, and then slowly deactivates. It's not very smooth. It's not very gradual. I don't know. It's fine if this is an option, but there should be an option where it doesn't ever turn off. These colors just don't look as vibrant as I really want them to look in my mind. But yeah, something like this with red, yellow, green, and blue, I'd probably just leave it on static like this. I can see what the functionality is. The secondary functions are lit up, and it's bright enough to be a very functional backlight. It's just not very glamorous, and it does not compete very well with the very brighter end, the higher brightness level keyboards. We have FN lock. This is cool. So just with a hotkey, FN and plus escape, you can quickly switch to make these all the secondary functions or the FN functions. I love that. So we have volume mute, down, up, microphone mute, brightness, down, up. Starting at the F7 key, we have our monitor switch, airplane mode. I'm not sure what the star is. It's the Lenovo Smart Key button, okay? Trackpad disable. Okay, so this is the multi-switch window button, calculator. So that multi-switch button is like your Windows switch. So if you have a bunch of applications open, you can press F11 and it's lets you switch between them. We got insert, print screen, delete, home, and page up, page down, and you can do secondary functions there with play, pause, stop, and fast forward, rewind. A number pad here is quite nice. We got full functionality for the different key presses, and the enter key is placed nicely for easy use. The arrow keys, I saw a comment complaining about the arrow key placement. I love the arrow key placement. It makes it very easy to find which arrows your fingers are on when they're separated off from the rest of the keys like this. So I really like the arrow key placement, and I think overall this is my favorite keyboard layout on any laptop, and the laptop keyboard feel on the Lenovo laptops are just the best in my opinion. Touchpad is large enough. I wish it just was glass. That's all. That's basically my main complaint. It doesn't glide as smoothly as I think it should. All right, so let's take a look at our color gamut. Keep in mind, right, that the color gamut checker, the Spider 5, underestimates by about 7-8-ish%. I call it, let's just do 7%. This thing is not a very colorful display. Look at that. It's only 69% of sRGB, 46% of Adobe RGB, and 46% of the P3 color gamut. So fairly low all around. 325 nits rated. Interesting. Honestly, it seemed brighter to me, but like I said, maybe that's just because of the background being so bright. But we are clearly above 300 nits, which is, I think, the baseline for using the laptop in brighter environments. So 325 nits is pretty good. 960:1 for our contrast ratio is also decent, about average for most of the gaming laptops this year. I would say this is not a very good screen for your money at $1349. At $999, this is about average for your screen quality. Around that price, maybe a little bit on the low side for color gamut, but for brightness, it's slightly above average, because like I said, about 300 nits is about average around the $1,000 price point. So this is definitely a weak point of the laptop so far, this lower color gamut on the display. And this looks a lot more like what I'm seeing with my eyes now. When I look at this screen, I look over there, it's much more similar now. Though I still think the the stream is showing it slightly more colorful than what I'm seeing with my eyes in this display in front of me. But it's closer now. It's less saturated. So that gives you a little bit better idea of the differences there. Nahimic. Okay, so it's a Nahimic audio control. So right now we have sound effects enabled with bass, treble. We'll turn on voice. Let's try that. Let's do our bass room audible decibels. So right around 42 to 43 decibels. Here's Peter Spacey roar. So not a lot of bass. There's a little bit of bass there. The mids and highs are not super clear. That was not a very impressive initial opening. Let's go to Faded Aeon Half-Life. Yeah, I'd say it's better with the Nahimic enabled, just with the basic music profiles going. I think this was the best sounding setup where you just have the voices, bass, and treble enabled, something like this. Surround and volume stabilizer didn't seem to do much for us.
I love you like la 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 la. I love you like.
Our overall volume did not get that loud. All right, we were only bouncing up to like 84 decibels or so, which is not particularly great in my opinion. The mids were pretty not super clear. The highs were not super clear. Like we saw those speakers when we opened the bottom of the laptop up. They were not amazing. They were nice, small, ordinary gaming laptop speakers. So yeah, I'd give them like a 6.5 out of 10, like to where you can hear the audio in a quiet room. But if you're in a busy environment, you're probably not going to hardly hear the speakers at all because they're so weak. Let's go ahead and go over the control software in a little more detail. I kind of briefly went over the keyboard section, but let's talk more details about how you control this laptop. For best performance, you get a little dashboard with some info about your CPU, VRAM, system tools. You can update your BIOS through here. So I did a BIOS update yesterday. You just download, click install. The laptop takes like 5 minutes doing its thing. We can switch actively between Optimus mode and NVIDIA GPU only mode. We can switch to the integrated GPU when we're in Optimus mode, and NVIDIA GPU only mode is what I would recommend. Here you can find your crucial system updates and your recommended ones. You can also click Windows updates and go to your Windows update. We can see we're also up to date on our Windows. Macro key, you can create your some macros here. I've not messed around with this very much. Power plans. This is nice because you can change your battery charge level that you want. So you can do conservation mode, which you can flip on, which will only charge the battery up to 75–80% for increasing longevity of your battery, of the lithium-ion battery. Ideally, you want to store it at only 80% juice. If you're regularly draining your battery, you can charge it up to 100% and then drain it and use it. It'll only damage the battery a little bit doing that, but in theory, a lithium-ion battery that's maintained at 80% capacity for regular use should last a really long time. This says full charge capacity is 84.68 watt hours, but we measure the battery inside the laptop was measured at 78 watt hours on the external part of the battery. That's interesting. There's also rapid charge you can enable and disable. You can enable privacy camera mode. Oh, you can adjust the brightness of the webcam. You can set the FN lock button right here. Microphone noise canceling. You can disable that. All right, so the primary ways you control the laptop is in this thermal mode button. You can go to balanced mode and use the enable Legion AI engine to automatically detect gameplay and tune CPU GPU performance. Only works when connected to AC power adapter plugged in. Temperature of your computer and fan noise might increase. I have not been very successful with this AI mode in the past, boosting performance. Performance mode itself is obviously the highest performance, but right now in performance mode, balance mode, and quiet mode, those are just auto fans. And if you want full fan support, you have to go to custom mode. And in here, you can click full speed, or you can go to custom and set your own fan curve. And then under performance, if you want to, you can ramp all of this TDP up to max. Let's go to full speed on the fans as well. Our GPU temp starting out here, 67 CPU temp 59, that's excellent. Only 20 watts of power going through that CPU, that's good. 2490 on our GPU boost clock, that's excellent. There is another option in here for overclocking your GPU. You can click the little settings option here, and you can slide these up to max if you want, or keep them at default 150, 200. 2700 on the GPU, 400 plus 400 on our memory clock, it was 8000. This is probably going to increase our wattage pull a little bit, but notice that we're only pulling a little bit over 100 watts, 107 watts right now, 108. 56.3 is pretty dang good for a full speed max fan mode. And our temps are also truly excellent right now. All right, we'll go ahead and turn off our GPU overclock, and we're going to go ahead and switch over to performance mode. 2505 for our GPU clock, 103 watts, 67 degrees. The wattage pull is a little bit lower now that we're not overclocking. Our CPU at 60 degrees still is excellent. Temperatures are phenomenal. 52.8 decibels, that's excellent. For a performance mode, that's very, very good. So we are in balanced mode now. Oh, wow, balanced mode drops us to 80 watts on the GPU. And look at our GPU boost clock, it dropped a lot, almost 250 to 300 clock speed off of that GPU. Obviously, you can undervolt and overclock this GPU if you want more performance out of it. At around this wattage range, you could probably get back to 2500. But because we dropped our wattage to only 80, our GPU temp actually went down, even though the fan noise is even quieter. So fans are like a low whistle right now. We'll call it 48 decibels for balanced mode. That is phenomenal. And our temps are actually the best temps that we have seen. So if you're after 1080p gaming with a fairly quiet fan, then this is pretty good. Let's try enable AI engine. And look at the AI doing absolutely nothing. It did not change our wattage, fan noise, power limits, or anything when we activated AI mode. So let's go ahead and switch to quiet mode, dropping us down to 63 watts, 62 watts. Notice that our clock speed is not that different. We were doing 2200 before, now we're doing 2250 before maybe. Now we're doing around 2100, above and below 2100. So we lost another 150 off the clock speed, but we're only doing 62 watts. Our temps on the CPU and the GPU have gone down. Every time we went down in fan noise, our temps went down further because the power limits went down, and we still have a good cooling system. The fans are barely running right now. Yeah, completely quiet, below 43 decibels, which was our baseline, and only 64 degrees on the GPU, 54 degrees on the CPU. Honestly, our temp has not gone above 70 on the GPU or the CPU in any of the modes, from max fan all the way down. That is impressive tuning from Lenovo. We're gonna do no overclock, performance mode. In the middle of the second test, we're actually pulling 30 watts through the CPU, which is the most we've seen. Performance mode pulling the most CPU wattage, 10,500. That's very close. That's good, especially considering we have no overclock applied. Our CPU score only 8,591. Honestly, a little bit lower than I was hoping for. Only a 6-core CPU is not going to put out nearly as high a score as these high-threaded core count CPUs out there. Let's move into our Cinebench R23 testing. Let's see what we get. 4.7 gigahertz right now. 90 degrees Celsius on the CPU. 65 watts of power going through that CPU right now to hit the 4.7 gigahertz core clock. I'll bet you we're going to thermal throttle eventually if we keep this up, or it's going to power limit throttle to something lower than 66. But only 6 cores, 12 threads. It's just not a ton of threads to work with. And it's 12,857. We've capped out at 93 degrees Celsius at our hottest temperature, which means we've not hit thermal throttling. It's very good performance for what it is what I'm gonna say. The biggest con to the CPU is there's not that many cores to the CPU. If you're after the most performance for a very cheap price, look at this Lenovo Lock 15i with an i7 13700H. This is a 14 core, 20 thread part. It's gonna definitely outperform this CPU. All right, if you want even more CPU performance, the most CPU performance around $1,300, the Omen 17 with the i7 13700HX which is going to have additional cores. The HX version, 16 cores, 24 threads. So you get 2 additional P cores in there versus only 6 P cores. You get 8 P cores, which of course gives you an additional 4 total threads. So the Omen 17 does 21,500, which is going to be a big difference in performance compared to this 12,999. That's 7,000. That's over a 50% CPU performance gain if you're after CPU performance. Okay, so we are going to be at native resolution. We're going to start with all high settings. So here we are, firing range, high settings. Let's go ahead and see what we're going to average. And right now we're doing 197 FPS on high settings. So you might not ever have to go to low settings with this laptop, which is kind of hilarious in Apex Legends. I think your 1% lows would still come up a little bit. All right. Okay, this feels smoother now. Even though we're only 144 hertz refresh rate on the display, things feel smoother. So I would still recommend switching to the lower settings if you want to have optimal aiming experience in the esports shooters. The smoothness of this display is good for a 144 hertz, and the ghosting level is about average for a 144 hertz. And response rate feels about average. I can see just a little bit of ghosting side to side, you know, very minimal, but it's just not as clean as like a high refresh rate display. I don't think I can shoot there. Let's go over here. All right, I'm not hearing too much spatial audio right now. Oh, we wrecked that crypto, 108 with 1 burst. Oh my gosh, there's 4 enemies. I got sandwiched. 71 degrees on the GPU. 78 degrees on the CPU. Keep in mind we're in performance mode right now. The primary reason we have increased heat is because our CPU wattage is much higher than it was. We're doing 45 watts through the system right now. I wanted to mention we're gonna test Baldur's Gate 3, surprise! No VSync, ultra quality preset. DLSS we'll put to quality. We'll have her attack him. Oh, she did not kill him, so now it's 3-on-1. Yep, we're done to die. I'm not an expert at this game. She survived that one. Can I do a healing potion? All right, and let's do an attack. All right, we leveled up. We're doing 135 FPS in this scene. 81 for a 1% low is very good. Our GPU is hitting 100% utilization, but only 87 watts. Our CPU is doing 42 watts of power, 4.7 gigahertz, 79 degrees on that CPU. Oh, we missed. Oh boy, we're probably dead now. And we died. Okay, so full screen exclusive, 144 hertz, 1920 by 1200. DLSS is on quality. We're gonna do minimum. We're getting shot from somebody. Oh, someone right behind us. Wow, our FPS right now is very good. Way better than I thought it was gonna be. For a 6-core CPU, this is some of the best performance I've seen. All right, so taking a look here, 41 watts of power, 70 degrees Celsius, 61 degrees on the GPU. Of course, we're not fully utilizing the GPU because we're CPU bound. I'm going over to this area usually when I'm going to these condensed down map areas. Okay, so we got a kill, and someone got me, and then that guy, that person got too. Wow, the FPS is very good right now. 115 FPS, 70 for a 1% lows. Very smooth gameplay right now in Warzone 2. Much better than I thought it was gonna be. 91 FPS on average, 59 for a 1% low. This is better than I thought. I thought we were gonna get around 70 FPS in that range. But still staying above 90 means that we're getting very playable frame rates. Right now, CSGO, high settings, default settings preset for high. 400 to 500 FPS, incredibly smooth looking. Only down to 80, 85 FPS in the middle of the smoke. So still very smooth gameplay. Some of the like i5 CPUs around this price range, it was going like all the way down to like 45, 50, 60 FPS. So going to 85 is a nice improvement. So 385 FPS in CSGO. Right now in Dust 2, 350, 270, 260 FPS. FPS that is just way higher than our 144 hertz refresh rate is just going to give us great gaming experience, I believe, in CSGO. Ray Tracing Ultra, DLSS on, quality, frame generation enabled. We'll go ahead and run this benchmark. Interesting. We're getting 88 watts of power, 90 watts of power to the GPU, 42 watts of power going to the CPU, nearly 100% GPU utilization, very close to 100% GPU utilization, 2500 on the boost clock. Of course, we'd be seeing higher FPS if we utilize the GPU overclock mode and all of that. Our 1% low is quite good at 65, meaning we're gonna have a very smooth gaming experience with very minimal stutters and jutters so far. Our VRAM is close to being maxed out at 7.5. It basically is maxed out at this point. 85.7 FPS, 67 for our min FPS. Very good performance overall. So if you don't know what frame generation is, it's basically the AI is creating interpolated frames or intercepting frames between two real frames and inserting an artificial frame in order to boost perceived FPS. And in my opinion, it works incredibly well. Let's go ahead and hop over to our graphics settings. Let's just turn off ray tracing. We'll do high settings. All right, so no ray tracing is enabled now. And now we're doing 148 FPS. And the main downside to frame generation is that it introduces a slight lag, input lag. Okay, so I think I already set these settings on. Windowed full screen, DLSS on quality. Frame generation is enabled, uncapped frame rate. Ultra settings, texture quality was set to high. So whenever you look at the frame time graph, you can see stuff loading in, popping in and out of existence with these big lines. And there's a few different reasons for it. If we're running into VRAM caps, if we're out of VRAM, it can bottleneck the GPU, causing a big stutter. Also, your regular RAM. We only have 16 gigs of RAM. Hogwarts loves lots and lots of RAM. This is one of the games where I recommend 32 gigs of RAM if you can get it, because I've seen Hogwarts pull like 24 gigs of RAM before. The stutters are not super noticeable, only at 25 for a 1% lows right now. We had a nice big stutter there at the beginning of the run, dropped our 1% low, kind of came up, now it's dipping down. So Hogsmeade is the toughest area of Hogwarts to benchmark because there's so many NPCs and it's a complex area. Okay, so we ended up with 81 FPS, 27 for our 1% low. If this was me playing the game, I would just go in here and I would turn off ray tracing. Bam, look at that, 115 FPS now. 1% low is also looking much better now that ray tracing is disabled. Frame time graph looking more steady as well. This game just runs better with ray tracing disabled. Let's turn off frame gen and I'll just show you what that looks like for FPS. No frame gen, we went from 113 FPS down to 65. So literally at 1080p, we're doubling our FPS with frame gen. Like literally AI frames are being inserted in between almost every frame. It is a noticeable difference to smoothness and gameplay quality. So this is one of the reasons why I would encourage you to use frame gen, at least in certain titles that have good support for it. Here we are, Dead Space, a game that can be very CPU bound. Notice that right now we are pulling the highest wattage through that Ryzen chip that we have pulled all day. 51.7 watts of power, 88 degrees. We're getting close to thermal throttling. I would not be surprised if we did hit thermal throttling at some point with this system. Fans are not at max decibels yet. So there is some cooling overhead capability that is not being utilized right now on the system. GPU temperature is very good. We're also hitting almost consistently 100% GPU utilization, occasionally coming down to like 95, 97 GPU. The frame time graph always looks like this in Dead Space, just to be clear, even though our 1% lows are actually pretty high at 40. 40 is very high for a 1% low. Here's our benchmark run, 90 degrees Celsius on that CPU, 4.47 gigahertz, 4.37 now. 51 watts of power, 2.5 gigs, 2.5 gigahertz over here on the GPU boost clock, or 2500 megahertz, 77 watts to that GPU. So again, we're primarily being CPU focused or CPU bound right now. 81 watts of power, or 81 FPS with 41 for a 1% low. This is good performance, very good 1% low performance, in particular with the Zen 4 CPU architecture. Very good. 36, it went down to 36 at the end, but we were 40. Like 40 was one of the highest 1% lows we've seen in Dead Space. 36 is only a little bit above average, but compared to a lot of the other CPUs, I'd say the average 1% low is around 30. So this is still above average. DLSS on quality. We're gonna do ultra graphics preset with textures on medium, like we always do. So I can barely hear the in-game audio because the speakers are pretty weak and the fans are really loud right now. We will switch it over to try quiet mode, 69 FPS. We're in silent mode, right? I don't hear the laptop fans at all anymore. We're still pushing good FPS with pretty high 1% lows right now. Good quiet gaming laptop, but the built-in fans, not very good. Or the built-in speakers are not very good. That's the issue. I can hear the game right now, but it's just, like I said, the quality of the audio is just not particularly good. Let's go back to performance mode once again for the rest of our testing. High quality ray tracing, DLSS on quality, frame generation enabled. Taking a look at our wattage and temps. 65 degrees on the GPU, 88 watts. So we're hitting close to peak wattage, not quite peak wattage, 99% GPU utilization, 73 degrees on the CPU, 40 watts of power going through that CPU. You know, I'm surprised how much wattage is actually going through this 6-core Ryzen Zen 4 CPU, right? I mean, 40 watts is a lot for such an efficient CPU. 110 for our median FPS, very good. 95 for our min FPS, extremely good for our min FPS actually. So, wow. Okay, I was gonna say the FPS seemed very low at first. We were only doing like 50 at first, and now we're doing 105. That's much better. Like it had that weird kind of ramp up right there. 85 watts to the GPU. Surprisingly low wattage, right? We're 100% GPU utilization, and yet we're not even close to the 100 watts. Very high CPU utilization, 49 watts, 51 watts. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider being another one of those games that's very heavy on the CPU. 111 FPS on average in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Very nice. Make sure our graphics are set to Ray Tracing Ultra, DLSS on quality, frame generation enabled, 1900 by 1200. We're hitting 90 watts of power in The Witcher 3, 100% GPU utilization almost. 72 degrees Celsius, 35 watts of power through the CPU. And our frame time graph is looking really steady, very nice. 74 FPS on average, 65 for our 1% lows. I will say The Witcher 3 is a game where sometimes I can notice the AI generated frames. The biggest thing about The Witcher 3, I tested with ray tracing on for my benchmark, but in actual gameplay, I typically would recommend turning off ray tracing because I think it actually looks better. 83 FPS on average, 66 for 1% lows. Turning off ray tracing, we'll just see what kind of FPS we get. 137. See, this is the way I would play this game if I was playing this game on this laptop. It's going to be smoother and much better, and you're going to notice the AI generated frames much less often when you have the FPS much higher, because the AI generated frames have less distance to guess between. What's up, and welcome to the final summary review of the Lenovo Legion Slim 5. We have tested all of these things in the full live stream, and there's going to be timestamps down below if you want to jump around to wherever whatever topic you're most interested in or test you're most interested in. Comparing this deal versus the other top deals out there right now, the Lenovo Legion Slim 5 at $1349, the full retail price, is a bad deal. It's only a 6-core Ryzen CPU, though the Zen 4 CPU did very good overall. Did not prove a weakness for this laptop in gaming at all. Warzone 2, very CPU-bound game, did very well. More than 100 FPS at times. On the low side, did about 90 FPS, which is very good for a Ryzen 5. Comparing this performance versus the competition, we saw some other deals out there that provide better screen quality. Another weakness of this laptop is only around 69% sRGB, not particularly good. But the display is very bright, above 300 nits, 325 nits, makes it, or 324 nits, excuse me, makes the laptop Very usable in brighter environments, though probably not direct sunlight. It would still be a little bit dim for that. The unboxing of this laptop is super basic, very simple box. This was shipped in, nothing special, very budgety unboxing experience. We didn't have any quality control issues on the laptop itself, did not see any dead pixels or loose keys or anything like that. And we had very good CPU, GPU paste. We disassembled the laptop. It's fairly easy to take apart. All you need is a Phillips head screwdriver and it pops right off. You can upgrade the RAM with 2 SODIMM slots. It comes with DDR5 5600 Samsung based RAM in the laptop itself and an SK Hynix SSD. Which is a lot of laptops these days are coming with that. Webcam quality was about average, maybe slightly above average. We already talked about the display. The keyboard is excellent. The layout is awesome. The backlight should be a lot brighter in my opinion, or could be a lot brighter. In a dark environment, it is easy to see the backlight though, but this is as bright as it gets. And I mean, it is noticeable, but it's not as flashy or as nice as the more premium laptops out there for sure. The laptop control software, Lenovo Vantage, very good, very easy to use, lightweight, installed and updated the BIOS on it, no problem. Windows update worked well, no issues there. The speakers on this were not particularly loud. The bass was pretty lacking. The mids were pretty lacking. The highs were pretty lacking. Lower volume. It's only going to really be a good speaker experience if you're very close to the laptop and you have the laptop fans in quiet mode. If you have any external noise going on, it pretty much drowns out the speakers themselves. They're not very loud and they're not very high quality. About a 6.5, I believe, is what I rated the speakers on this guy. Fan noise, 56 decibels at max fan noise. 52 decibels when in performance mode is pretty good for full wattage performance. 48 in balance mode and basically dead quiet in quiet mode. But quiet mode does limit your overall performance quite a bit compared to full on performance mode or full custom mode. We did test this in Last of Us, and if you have your fans running, you can barely hear the game audio. If you have the fans in quiet mode, you can hear the game audio, but it's still not particularly, I don't know, it's almost like if I was running my Blade 18 at 30% volume, like literally the sound I'm getting from this. It is not particularly loud. That's how much better the Blade 18 speakers are, but the Blade 18 speakers are the best gaming laptop speakers that I've tested so far in 2023. Cinebench R23, only 12,800 or so in Cinebench R23, not very good. Value for your CPU multi-core raw performance. At $1,349, that's very poor. At $1,000, that's about average. It's not bad at $1,000 if you get this on sale at $1,000. Good CPU performance for your money. Time Spy, we got 10,500 or so. Very good GPU performance for your money at $1,000. Excellent GPU performance for your money at $1,000. At $1,349, pretty mediocre GPU performance for your money, because you can get a 4070 that has even better screen than this for less money. The Nitro 16 4070 for like $1,269 or something like that. Very good deal compared to this. Better screen and better GPU for less money compared to the full retail price. So do not pay full retail price for this. And so this laptop at $999 slots really nicely into those more entry-level budget laptops. The biggest weakness compared to some of those is that this display is not as colorful. That's probably the biggest flaw with this laptop overall. And the other kind of flaw to this one against some of those other laptops is it's only 6 cores, 12 threads. But for the 6 cores and 12 threads that we do got in here, it is excellent. It is very good performance with the Ryzen 5 7640HS. And we also saw great temps today. Very good temperatures all around, all the time in everything we did, except for a couple of games where we got up into the high 80s. I don't think we ever went over 90s in any games, and we never thermal throttled. And even in Cinebench R23, we hit a little over 90 degrees. I think 93 was our peak, never hitting 95 even once. And that was on performance mode, not even max fan mode. So obviously, and we have not undervolted or overclocked the system at all. Regarding size, like this is probably my biggest kind of pet peeve right now with this system. The size of this machine is so similar to the Legion Pro 5 and Pro 7i. It is, if it's thinner, it is not much thinner at all. Like, I am sorry, like they're claiming this thing is thin, but the design, it has the same keyboard. It has almost the same thickness. It has literally the same display as the Lock 16, and maybe it's the same size display as some of the, it's a 16-inch display, just like the Legion Pro 5 and Pro 7i. When you compare this in terms of thickness to the Zephyrus G16, the Zephyrus G16 is noticeably thinner and noticeably lighter weight. Again, this thing's not much lighter weight, maybe just a little bit lighter than the Pro 5 and the Pro 7i. So if you're after a slimmer laptop, I think Slim 5 is a pretty misleading nomenclature for it. And the only reason really to buy this laptop is not for its slimness, more for its bang for the buck when it's on sale. When I bought this at $1,000, great deal. Great freaking deal. Even at $1,100, I think this is a good deal. Like worth buying at $1,100. But right now, given its $1,349 price, I would say do not buy it at $1,349 at all. Like there's better options on the market. There's the Legion Pro 5 right now, Pro 5i, much better deal, currently on sale. And it has a way better CPU and a better display. And it's cheaper at like $1,150 or $1,200. So yeah, there's constantly going to be new sales, new deals put out there. And if you want to find them, this list has like all of the deals. All of the ones marked in purple are on sale right now. And right now laptops are, I guess there's just a lot of supply, not enough demand right now in this interim period because there's so many sales right now. Prices have come down a lot on gaming laptops. So do not pay full price at $1,349 for this. You wait for it to come on sale. You get it on sale at $1,000. Good value. Can I recommend the laptop? Absolutely. I mean, I don't think it's the ideal laptop for creative professionals that need a high color gamut display. I don't think it's the ideal laptop for esports gamers who want to have a 360 hertz display. Get the Aura 7 if you're an esports gamer at $1,100, or at least a 240 hertz display at the minimum if you're an esports gamer. For someone who's a Lenovo fan and you're a college student or you're a business person, and you want a laptop that can blend into the classroom, can blend into business, that's portable, it's gonna have good battery life. I didn't touch on battery life, but this thing's gonna have excellent battery life with a Ryzen 5 CPU. You optimize this thing, you're talking at least 8 hours of web browsing. Should be no problem if you're on integrated only mode in the Lenovo Vantage software and you're running a battery friendly browser. And you might even get well more than 8 hours, to be honest. You got a good sized battery in here. Overall, can I recommend the laptop? $1,349, no. $999, absolutely. Great deal at $999. $1,100, still a good deal. But I still think some laptops, there's some better options out there at $1,100. At $1,000, this thing's like very competitive with almost everything out there, with a couple of exceptions that I would probably recommend over it. But that's going to go up and down depending on the deals that are going on. But this is going to be a general application summary, you know, so thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.